And to go as far as saying volcanoes and hurricanes and forest fires are persecuting Christians, it's a stretch, Frank. It's a stretch. Frank Turek tries to explain moral evil versus natural evil. This is a question that I've had for a very long time now, and I've done quite a few videos on it. Moral evil is not is allowed through God because of free will, and he can't stop the free will and all that. But my question for a long time has been, what about natural evil? Why can't God stop natural evil? It doesn't seem to affect our free will, but hopefully in this video he's going to explain exactly why God allows natural evil. He won't, spoiler alert, but hey, we can always hope. Let's jump right into it.
To somebody, and they hit me with this concept of like being just and unjust, which like was mentioned there before, but they went beyond the personal level. And what I mean by that is like this lady right here. Like if I looked at her and I like punched her or slapped her, right? Like that would not be very just. But if something exists in the world between materials and us, so like, say if I'm walking down and like a boulder hits me and I die, obviously that's not just. But the suffering that it brings is not caused from anything, because I guess you could say like that unjust or justness does not exist in the world of like materials, right? Like that rock or boulder didn't choose to hit me because like, oh, I don't like him. You know.
So you're talking about the distinction between.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump in right before Frank explains moral evil versus natural evil, but it's kind of like what I just said, and we'll see. I don't think so.
That someone deserved something, and God allowed that to happen.
What? I have spoke too soon. There you have it. Baby born with cancer. Maybe they deserved it, says Frank Turek.
So we just don't know. But we all agree.
Frank Turek tries to explain moral evil versus natural evil. This is a question that I've had for a very long time now, and I've done quite a few videos on it. Moral evil is allowed through God because of free will, and he can't stop the free will and all that. But my question for a long time has been, what about natural evil? Why can't God stop natural evil? It doesn't seem to affect our free will, but hopefully in this video he's going to explain exactly why God allows natural evil. He won't, spoiler alert, but hey, we can always hope. Let's jump right into it.
To somebody, and they hit me with this concept of like being just and unjust, which like was mentioned there before, but they went beyond the personal level. And what I mean by that is like this lady right here. Like if I looked at her and I like punched her or slapped her, right? Like that would not be very just. But if something exists in the world between materials and us, so like, say if I'm walking down and like a boulder hits me and I die, obviously that's not just. But the suffering that it brings is not caused from anything, because I guess you could say like that unjust or justness does not exist in the world of like materials, right? Like that rock or boulder didn't choose to hit me because like, oh, I don't like him. You know.
So you're talking about the distinction between.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump in right before Frank explains moral evil versus natural evil, but it's kind of like what I just said. I don't think I would use a boulder as an example for a natural evil, although it's a fair example. But boulders, maybe it is a fair example. Cut this. But basically, you have moral evils where you don't want to violate the free will, and you have natural evils, volcanoes. I like to use the examples of volcanoes and cancer. God made the world, right? And I know that this is the fall, and this is it's a fallen world. I get that. Maybe in the Garden of Eden, there weren't any volcanoes, but that doesn't seem to be the case, because we can trace volcanoes back much, much longer than the Earth is supposed to be old, according to at least young Earth creationists. But it would seem that volcanoes have been around for a couple of years, right? More than 50 years. We'll give it that. So why did God choose to put volcanoes into the world that he created? That's my question. He could have left them out. I understand that they have geothermic. There's a lot of stuff that goes on with volcanoes to make the world function the way that the world functions. But he's God, so he could have done it any other way. He could have made the world function the way that the world needs to function without using volcanoes, right? He's God. He could have performed those functions without the volcanoes. So why did God choose to put volcanoes in the world anyway? Why did God choose to allow cancer to come into the earth? to come into our world? Why did God give some animals the ability to resist cancers with different genetic mutations that are able to fight off certain types of cancers? So there are some animals in the world that don't get cancer. Why aren't we one of them? Why does God allow these things to happen? That's my question. Let's see if Frank's
Between moral evil and natural evil.
Yeah.
That
So
if someone does something immoral to someone else, that's one way evil is perpetrated, or at least suffering is perpetrated.
Yeah.
Sure.
And if a natural disaster occurs, a boulder falls on your head, that's another way.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the question in there?
Why is that allowed to happen?
That's a good question.
If we do have like a just God, because I guess it's like the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what I would ask. I don't know why it's allowed to happen, but more why does God allow it in the world? Once it's in the world, he would have to allow it to happen. He's not going to sit there and stop every boulder or plug up every volcano or, but why have it in his world in the first place? I guess is my question. Just don't create. If you were God, right, and you were designing a world, and you had the option to put whatever pieces you want together to make this world function. You're God, after all. You can do whatever you want. Omnipotent, right? So why stick the volcano on there? Just don't do that. Just don't put the volcano on there. Just don't do it. Would you do it?
Right,
well, Christians believe that the world is broken because we broke
All
it.
right. Yeah,
And
it's
we
a fallen
think
world.
that
We broke it. That's why there's volcanoes, because we broke it. So we sinned. The world is now fallen. Therefore, volcanoes emerge from the earth, and billions of gallons, however many gallons or tons of molten hot rock have to spew from the world for some reason because of sin, because we broke it. It's our fault.
the reason that even natural disasters occur is because the world is fallen due to our own sin. So
All right. Thanks a lot, Adam and Eve. You gave us volcanoes, then herpes.
we're the ones that broke it, and Jesus actually fixed it.
So Jesus fixed it. If you come across my YouTube video and you make it this far into it and you live next to a volcano, don't worry. Jesus has already fixed it. He did specifically, they did just show a volcano, did they not? Or was it
And
fires?
Jesus actually fixed it. So we still live in a broken
didn't go back
world,
far
and
enough.
evil and suffering still occur. The reason that even natural disasters occur is because the world is fallen due to our own sin.
Yeah, so don't worry. Ignore the alarms. That's fake news. Jesus fixed it. You're good to go. Please ignore this because obviously Jesus did not fix this. Heed all warnings and alarms because the volcano will burn you alive. Just don't ask Frank.
So we're the ones that broke it, and Jesus actually fixed it.
Jesus actually fixed it,
we
he
still
says.
live in a broken world, and evil and suffering still occur.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about this fallen tree. Jesus, he's got you covered under his insurance. He's got you on his policy. He only has liability. But don't worry about it. Jesus has fixed this car. That's the... Okay.
Occurs even to Christians. In fact, it's promised to Christians. Jesus famously said, if they persecuted me, they're going to persecute you. And Paul said, anyone who lives a faithful...
Now, I've seen a lot of Christian, what is it called? The Christian persecution, when they're one of the most privileged groups in the world, Christians. But to argue that volcanoes are persecuting you, Frank,
life in Christ Jesus will be persecuted, and we're going to experience natural disasters just like everybody else.
this is the biggest the whiniest video that I possibly have ever seen. The Christian persecution. Now, granted, some time ago, I'll hand it to you. You had some persecution going on back in the day, right? I get it. You did. But not now. And to go as far as saying volcanoes and hurricanes and forest fires are persecuting Christians, it's a stretch, Frank. It's a stretch.
And we all know it shouldn't be that way, right? In fact, I don't care what worldview somebody has. You can ask anybody of any worldview this question: what's wrong with the world? No one is going to say, nothing, everything's fine. Everyone knows there's something wrong with the world. If there's something wrong with the world, there must be a standard that we're judging that to be wrong. That standard is God's nature.
I agree, Frank. I am using God's nature as a standard as to why volcanoes are evil. Volcanoes inherently are not good or evil. They have no autonomy. They are not an agent with will and thought. But when you add a God into the mix who put them there, knowing their destructive capabilities, and he didn't have to, now the volcano becomes at least a catalyst for evil. I agree. God's nature is evil.
So why does God allow certain things, evil things to happen? Well, we could spend a lot of time talking about that. And even if we can't
Spend the time. He says we can spend a lot of time talking about that. He hasn't spent a lot of time talking about that.
figure out an answer, that doesn't mean God doesn't have an answer, right?
Well, can someone get him on the prayer line and ask him? Maybe he can just fill us in a little bit, because this would solve a lot of problems if God could just answer a prayer as to why he allows all of these natural evils to occur, why he allows babies to be born with cancer but not elephants, why he allows volcanoes to erupt. And I've said this before, so maybe don't build your house next to a volcano. It's good advice. But that doesn't mean that the animals in the trees, the wildlife, that they can't choose that. They still get burned alive, but God did like the animals, that the burnt flesh, so maybe that's why. But anyway, it's just evil. There's no good that comes from a baby that's born with cancer and dies, okay? There's no good that comes from that. You might have what you would call a silver lining, but there's no good that comes from that because it started in such a dark place. If you're going to use okay, let's keep going.
Right? God may allow certain evil things to happen.
Hey, there's the volcano. Okay, so he knows about the volcano. They know about the volcanoes. Why is this on the earth? Look at this picture. Look at the picture and tell me why it's on the earth. God could have put this molten hot lava spewing, but he could have not done that. He could have just not done at least this, but he did, right? Look at this. There's no reason for this.
Because it's going to bring forth good later. Or it might be...
Okay, no. That's exactly what I was just saying. It might bring forth good later. The volcano was bringing up all the little saplings, right? But just bring up the saplings. Stop with the volcano first. You're God. You don't have to use a volcano to get your saplings. Just bring up the saplings. You've done it before. Are you telling me that in the Garden of Eden, before he put the trees there that they ate the fruit off of, he had to make a fucking volcano erupt first? Of course he didn't. He just poofed them there. Poof the saplings. Get rid of the volcanoes. Get rid of the cancer. I don't care what silver lining you can gain from a baby being born with cancer. But just do the silver lining thing, and then it becomes good. It's not just a silver lining that emerged from some tragic incident. Stop with the cancer, God, please. Just do that. And, right? Just for babies. Can we get babies, God? Can we just do babies? And we'll see. I don't think so.
That someone deserved something, and God allowed that to happen.
What? I have spoke too soon. There you have it. Baby born with cancer. Maybe they deserved it, says Frank Turek.
So we just don't know.
Going through these apologetic videos, you see a lot of excuses. You see a lot of just these mental gymnastics trying to come up with answers for something that there just might not be an answer to. And after he goes through all of this stuff, he gets to the real answer.
So we just don't know.
That's it.
But we all agree something's wrong.
We just don't know. Why can't he just leave? When somebody comes to Frank Turek and says, why evil? That's all he should say is, no idea. We don't know. But he doesn't. He's an apologist. He gets paid to do this. It's his job. I understand.
Wrong with the world. And if there's something wrong with the world, we're assuming a standard. that standard can only exist if God exists. Otherwise, it's just my opinion against your opinion.
Yeah.
No, that standard can only exist if God exists. You have to prove that this God exists for starters, and then you have to tell me why I should care what that God's standards are. As of right now, in reality, in the real world that we live in, it's just Frank's opinion versus my opinion. Frank's opinion on what he thinks a God wants versus my opinion on what I think is good for the world. Frank's opinion on what he thinks God thinks is good for the world versus my opinion. It's all opinion. It really is. But let's keep going.
All right. So when people claim, well, this happened
really
and
like
it's
this
unjust, they're already assuming a world with God in it.
Absolutely not. It's unjust according to what? According to God? Well, no, because if it was unjust according to God, he just simply would not allow it to happen. I'm not talking about free will here. I'm talking about natural disasters. If God thinks a volcano is unjust, he would just not have put it into the world. It's really that simple. Unjust according to what? Why is cancer unjust according to me? Why is cancer unjust according to me? Because it is completely counterintuitive to human flourishing in every conceivable capacity. My goal is human flourishing. God's goal is babies with cancer. He's accomplished it. Thank you, God.
Because as soon as they start talking about justice and injustice, they're assuming God. That's why the book I mentioned earlier, Stealing from God, Why Atheists Need God to Make Their Case, is pointing out that whenever
atheists do not need God to make their case. All they need is a goal. All you need is a goal. What is your goal? And then you can begin to make objectively correct and incorrect moves towards that goal. It's that simple. It really is.
complain about justice in the world, for example, they're stealing a standard from God in order to do so.
So there we have it, folks. Another video with not one single answer from Frank Turek. Well, no, I take it back. He gave one answer and it was good and it was correct. We don't know, right? Let's just assume for a moment that God does exist. The only answer you can give is no clue. It doesn't make sense. We don't know. But, it's Frank Turek. So, all right, till the next one.